The dream that everyone laughed at. There was once a young man who lived in a small, struggling neighborhood where survival was considered success. People woke up every morning with only one goal: to make enough money to get through the day. Dreams were rare. Ambition was often mistaken for fantasy. And anyone who talked about becoming wealthy was usually met with laughter. But this young man was different. While others accepted the life they had been given, he imagined the life he wanted to create. Every evening, after finishing long hours of exhausting work, he would sit outside his small apartment and stare at the city skyline in the distance. The tall buildings represented something more than wealth. They represented possibility. He would quietly whisper to himself, "One day, I'll become a billionaire." Not because he wanted expensive cars, not because he wanted people to admire him, but because he never wanted to experience poverty again. He wanted to build businesses, create jobs, help struggling families, and most importantly, he wanted to give his mother the life she had sacrificed everything for. His father had died when he was still a little boy. From that moment, his mother became both parents. She worked tirelessly, sometimes holding 2 jobs, sometimes skipping meals so her son could eat. She never complained. Whenever life became difficult, she smiled and said, "As long as we're together, we'll find a way." Those words became the foundation of his life. He promised himself that one day, his mother would never have to work again. He imagined buying her a beautiful home, taking her around the world, watching her enjoy the comfort she had spent her entire life sacrificing. That dream became his fuel. But dreams alone don't change lives. Years passed. He worked different jobs, saved what little he could, started small businesses that failed, applied for opportunities that never came. Sometimes he questioned himself, but he never questioned his dream. By the time he turned 30, his reality looked nothing like the future he had imagined. He was still struggling financially, still renting a tiny apartment, still wondering how he would pay next month's bills. Meanwhile, people around him had begun to lose faith. Friends who once encouraged him now mocked his ambition. Some laughed behind his back, others said it directly to his face. "You're 30 years old. When are you going to stop chasing impossible dreams? If becoming wealthy were that easy, everyone would do it. You've wasted your best years." Each comment hurt. Not because they were cruel, but because a small part of him wondered if they might be right, late at night. He would lie awake staring at the ceiling. Questions filled his mind. What if I'm chasing something that will never happen? What if I've failed my family? What if everyone else is right? But every morning, he made the same decision: to get up, to keep working, to keep learning, to keep believing, because deep inside, there was a quiet voice that refused to disappear. It reminded him that impossible dreams only remain impossible for those who stop pursuing them. He didn't know when his breakthrough would come. He didn't know how it would happen. But he made one promise to himself: "I may fail many times, but I will never quit on the life I know I'm capable of creating." Little did he know, life was about to test that promise in ways he could never have imagined. Life has a way of testing people just before they are ready to give up. For him, the test didn't come all at once. It came little by little, one disappointment after another. Every business idea he started seemed promising in the beginning. He worked late into the night, studied successful entrepreneurs, watched countless educational videos, read books about wealth, leadership, and business. He believed that somewhere inside those pages was the answer that would change his life. But reality was much harder than motivation. His first small business failed after only a few months. He had invested everything he had managed to save. When it collapsed, he lost not only his money, but also his confidence. Still, he refused to stop. He found another idea, started again. This time he worked even harder. He sacrificed weekends, skipped holidays, turned down invitations from friends, because every spare hour became another chance to build something. For a while, it looked like things were finally changing. Customers began to come. Hope returned. Then, an unexpected setback destroyed everything. A major supplier pulled out. Expenses increased. Sales dropped. Within weeks, the business was gone. Again. Most people would have walked away. Most people would have accepted defeat, but not him. Every failure taught him something. Every mistake became a lesson. Every disappointment became another reason to improve. Still, improvement doesn't immediately pay the bills. There were nights when he counted the few coins left in his pocket, days when he had to choose between paying for transportation or eating a proper meal. He wore the same clothes for years because buying new ones wasn't a priority. His dream mattered more. Yet the world rarely celebrates invisible sacrifices. Friends began moving forward with their lives. Some bought homes, some got married, some built successful careers. Social media constantly reminded him of everyone else's progress. While they celebrated milestones, he quietly questioned his own. Comparison became one of his greatest battles. He wasn't jealous. He was simply wondering why his own journey seemed so much longer. People around him didn't understand. Some believed he was chasing fantasies. Others thought he was simply unlucky. A few stopped answering his calls because they assumed he might ask to borrow money. Even relatives who once encouraged him started offering different advice. Find a stable job. Stop taking risks. Maybe success isn't meant for everyone. At first, those words hurt. Then they became noise. Because he had learned something important. People can only encourage a dream for as long as they believe it's possible. When the journey becomes longer than expected, many lose faith, sometimes before you do, but he refused to let someone else's doubt become his reality. There was only one person who never stopped believing in him: his mother. Every evening she would ask, "How is the business going?" Even when the answer wasn't good, she smiled. She never laughed at his dreams. She never called him unrealistic. She simply reminded him, every tree starts as a seed. Whenever he felt discouraged, those words gave him strength. Because if one person still believed in him, he could continue believing in himself. He didn't know it then, but those conversations would soon become the most precious memories of his life. The years kept passing. His savings disappeared. His failures increased. The pressure became heavier. And just when he thought life couldn't become more difficult, it did. A phone call would soon arrive. One that would change his life forever. Not because it brought success, but because it brought heartbreak. The greatest challenge of his life was no longer about money. It was about loss. And nothing could have prepared him for what came next. Some moments divide life into two chapters: life before and life after. For him, that moment came on an ordinary afternoon. He was sitting in his small apartment searching through job listings while trying to figure out how to restart his business one more time. His phone rang. It was a neighbor. The voice on the other end sounded hurried, panicked. His mother had collapsed. Without thinking, he grabbed his keys and rushed out the door. The journey to the hospital felt endless. Every red light felt like an enemy. Every second felt heavier than the last. As he arrived, he searched every hallway with desperate eyes. Doctors moved quickly. Nurses spoke in whispers. Family members stood in silence. His heart was racing. He kept telling himself, "She's going to be okay. She has to be okay." Moments later, a doctor walked toward him. There was no smile, no hopeful expression, only silence. The kind of silence that says everything before a single word is spoken. "I'm sorry." Those two words shattered his world. His mother was gone. The woman who had carried him through every storm. The woman who had believed in him when no one else did. The woman who skipped meals so he could eat. The woman who never stopped reminding him to keep believing was no longer there. He couldn't move. He couldn't speak. It felt as though time itself had stopped. The hospital walls blurred around him. The voices faded into the background. For the first time since losing his father as a child, he felt completely alone. That night he returned to the small apartment where they had shared so many memories. Her favorite chair was still by the window. A cup she had used that morning was still on the table. Everything looked the same, except the one person who made it feel like home was gone. He sat in silence. Then the tears came. Not the quiet tears of disappointment, not the tears of failure. These were the tears of a son whose greatest dream had been taken away. For years he had imagined the day he would surprise her. He pictured handing her the keys to a beautiful home, taking her on vacations she had only dreamed about, buying her everything she had sacrificed so he could have a better life. He had promised her, "One day, Mom, I'll spoil you with the good things of life. You'll never have to worry again. Now. That promise felt impossible to keep. No amount of money could bring her back. No success could give her the years she had lost working tirelessly for him. For weeks. He questioned everything. He stopped answering calls. He stopped working. He stopped reading. The dream that had carried him through years of failure suddenly felt meaningless. What was the point of becoming successful if the one person he wanted to celebrate with was gone? One evening, as he sorted through his mother's belongings, he found an old notebook. Inside were small handwritten notes, grocery lists, household reminders, and tucked between the pages, a letter addressed to him. His hands trembled as he unfolded it. She had written it months earlier. "My son, if you're reading this, it means I'm no longer beside you. But never believe I've stopped believing in you. From the day you were born, I knew you were meant for something greater than our circumstances. Don't let hardship convince you to settle. Don't let failure make you forget who you are. Success isn't measured only by money. It's measured by the lives you touch, the character you build, and the courage you show when life becomes difficult. If I leave this world before seeing your dreams come true, promise me one thing. Don't stop, not because of me, but because of the man you're becoming. Keep believing, keep learning, keep moving forward. Your time will come. With all my love, Mom." He read the letter again, and again. Each word felt like she was speaking directly to him. For the first time since her passing, he realized something. His dream had never truly been about becoming a billionaire. It had always been about honoring the sacrifices of the people who believed in him. His mother might not be there to witness his success, but she had already given him something far more valuable, a reason to keep going. That night, he stood by the window where she used to sit. He looked up at the stars, and through tears he whispered, "I couldn't keep my promise the way I imagined, but I promise you this. I will not waste the life you sacrificed to give me. I will keep going, no matter how long it takes." He didn't know it yet, but that decision, made in the darkest season of his life, would become the turning point that changed everything. Grief changes people. Some become stronger, some become bitter, some lose themselves completely, for a while. He didn't know which path he would take. Every morning felt heavier than the one before. There was no voice in the kitchen reminding him to eat. No one waiting to ask how his day had gone. No encouraging smile telling him to keep believing. The apartment had become painfully quiet. And in that silence, doubt grew louder. He began asking himself questions he had avoided for years. What if everyone was right? What if I've been chasing an impossible dream? What if 30 is already too late? One evening, he stood in front of the mirror and barely recognized the man staring back at him. The fire in his eyes had faded. His shoulders carried years of disappointment. His confidence had been buried beneath rejection, failure, and loss. For the first time in his life, he considered giving up, not because he had stopped dreaming, but because he was tired. Tired of failing, tired of starting over, tired of pretending everything would work out. He sat on the floor, surrounded by old notebooks filled with business ideas. Some were unfinished, some had failed, some had never even begun. Looking at them felt like looking at a museum of broken dreams. He picked one up, then another. Page after page reminded him of plans that never became reality. Frustrated, he was about to throw them all away. Then something caught his attention. Inside one notebook, he had written a sentence years earlier. "The person who refuses to quit has already defeated the person who never tried." He stared at those words for a long time. Then he smiled. Not because life had suddenly become easier, but because he realized something. The younger version of himself still believed in him. The man who wrote those words had faced uncertainty before. Yet he had continued. If that younger version could keep believing with even fewer resources, why couldn't he? That night changed him. He made a decision. He stopped measuring success by his bank account. Instead, he measured it by the man he was becoming. Every day he would become a little wiser, a little stronger, a little more disciplined, even if no one noticed. He created a routine. He woke up before sunrise. He exercised even when he didn't feel like it. He read books on business, psychology, leadership, and investing. He listened to successful entrepreneurs while walking through the neighborhood. He learned new skills online using free resources because he couldn't afford expensive courses. He started writing down every lesson from his past failures. Instead of asking, "Why did I fail?" he began asking, "What did failure teach me?" That single question changed everything. Failure stopped feeling like an enemy. It became a teacher. Every rejection sharpened his judgment. Every mistake improved his decision-making. Every setback built resilience. Months passed. His financial situation hadn't changed much, but something else had: his mindset. People who met him noticed a quiet confidence. He no longer complained. He no longer blamed circumstances. He no longer envied other people's success. He understood that comparison was stealing the energy he needed for his own journey. Some people still mocked his dream. They laughed when he spoke about building businesses. They reminded him of his age. 31 now. Still chasing billions? He simply smiled. He no longer needed to convince anyone. Because, for the first time, he realized that belief doesn't become stronger when everyone agrees with you. Belief becomes stronger when you continue despite disagreement. One afternoon, while walking home from another long day of temporary work, he noticed something interesting. The same abandoned building he had passed for years was being renovated. Workers were transforming something forgotten into something valuable. He stopped and watched for a few minutes. Then a thought crossed his mind. Maybe people are like buildings. From the outside, others only see what's broken. They don't see the foundation being rebuilt. They don't see the work happening behind the walls. Transformation is often invisible, until one day everyone notices the finished result. He walked away with renewed hope because he realized his own life was under renovation. It just wasn't finished yet. Sometimes the greatest progress happens when nobody is applauding, when nobody is watching, when nobody believes in you. Those quiet seasons are where character is built, and character often prepares you for opportunities that talent alone cannot handle. Little did he know. One ordinary day, while buying a simple cup of coffee, a familiar voice would call his name, a voice from his past, a meeting that seemed completely accidental, but would become the moment that changed the course of his entire life forever. Life has a strange way of rewarding people. Not always when they expect it, but often when they're finally prepared for it. One ordinary Saturday morning, he walked into a small coffee shop near the bus station. He wasn't there to celebrate anything. In fact, he had just finished another temporary job. His shoes were worn out. His wallet was nearly empty. The future still looked uncertain. He ordered the cheapest cup of coffee on the menu and found a quiet corner. As he stared out the window, a familiar voice interrupted his thoughts. "Is that really you?" He looked up. Standing in front of him was someone he hadn't seen in almost 15 years, an old childhood friend. They embraced like brothers who had simply lost touch with time. For nearly an hour they talked, about school, about life, about family, about dreams. His friend listened carefully as he shared everything. The failed businesses, the sleepless nights, the loss of his parents, the promise he couldn't keep, the years of rejection. When he finished speaking, his friend didn't laugh. He didn't pity him either. Instead, he smiled. Then he asked one simple question. "After everything you've been through, why haven't you given up?" He paused for a moment before answering. "Because I still believe my story isn't over." His friend leaned back in his chair. "I was hoping you'd say that." Confused, he asked, "What do you mean?" His friend explained that over the past several years he had built a fast-growing company. The business wasn't built on luck. It was built on solving real problems. And now, the company was expanding faster than ever. They needed someone they could trust, someone resilient, someone willing to learn, someone who understood hardship. "We've interviewed people with impressive resumes," his friend said, "but very few have the character I'm looking for." Then he looked directly into his eyes. "I don't need someone who's never failed. I need someone who refused to stay down after failing." Those words hit him harder than any motivational speech he had ever heard. For years, he thought his failures had disqualified him. Now he was hearing something completely different. Perhaps those failures had actually prepared him. His friend offered him an opportunity, not a guarantee of success, not free money, Not an easy life, an opportunity. One that required commitment, long hours, learning, discipline, and the courage to start again. Without hesitation, he accepted. The first few months were anything but glamorous. He studied the business every day. He asked questions. He made mistakes. He learned from experienced people. He arrived before everyone else. He often left after everyone had gone home. People noticed something unusual, while others complained about difficult tasks. He welcomed them. Compared to everything life had already thrown at him, this wasn't hardship. This was opportunity. His years of struggle had quietly developed qualities that couldn't be taught overnight. Patience, resilience, humility, discipline, problem-solving, emotional strength. Those qualities began to separate him from everyone else. Within a year, he was leading major projects. Within 3 years, he became a partner in the company. He invested wisely, started additional businesses, built multiple streams of income. Everything he had spent years studying finally began making sense. The knowledge he had collected during lonely nights, the books he had read when nobody believed in him, the lessons learned from failed businesses. They were no longer random experiences. They were pieces of a puzzle that was finally coming together. Years passed. The businesses expanded internationally. Investments multiplied. New opportunities continued appearing, one by one. The dreams that once seemed impossible slowly became reality. Then one morning, he drove through the same neighborhood where he had grown up. The streets looked smaller than he remembered. The little apartment where his mother had raised him still stood. He parked the car, walked slowly toward the front door, and stood silently for several minutes. He closed his eyes, tears filled them once again. Not tears of pain this time, but tears of gratitude. He whispered softly, "Mom, I wish you could have seen this. I wish I could have given you everything I promised. I couldn't change the past, but everything I became, it was because of you." At that moment, he realized something extraordinary. His greatest success wasn't becoming wealthy. It wasn't building companies. It wasn't the billions. His greatest success was becoming the man his mother always believed he could be. Money had changed his lifestyle, but character had changed his life. Looking back, he finally understood. The breakthrough didn't begin the day he met his old friend. It began years earlier. Every time he chose to keep going, every time he refused to quit, every time he believed in himself while everyone else had stopped believing. The opportunity had changed his financial future, but his mindset had created the man who was ready for that opportunity. Because opportunity alone doesn't change lives. Preparation does. And sometimes, the greatest blessing isn't the opportunity itself. It's becoming the person capable of recognizing it when it finally arrives. Years after his life changed, people often asked him the same question. What was the secret? How did you become successful? How did you finally become a billionaire? Some expected him to reveal a hidden investment. Others believed he had discovered a shortcut. Many assumed luck had finally found him. He would simply smile, because they were asking about the last chapter of his story. Without knowing the first 5, they saw the success, but they never saw the suffering. They admired the wealth. But they never witnessed the years of uncertainty. They celebrated the breakthrough, but they never experienced the countless moments when quitting would have been easier. Success has a strange way of making people forget the struggle that came before it. One afternoon, he was invited to speak to a room filled with young entrepreneurs. Some were just beginning. Others had already experienced failure. As he stood on the stage, he looked into the audience and saw a younger version of himself. People filled with dreams, people carrying fear, people wondering if they were good enough. He walked to the microphone and said, "Everyone wants to know how I became successful. But almost nobody asks how many times I wanted to quit." The room became silent. He continued, "I've been rejected. I've lost money. I've failed in business. I've buried both of my parents. I've doubted myself. I've watched other people succeed while I stayed behind. I've cried alone. I've questioned my purpose. And yet, I'm standing here today. Not because I never failed, but because I never allowed failure to make the final decision." The audience listened carefully. Then he shared the lesson that had changed his life. Your greatest enemy isn't failure. It's believing that failure means your story is over. He paused for a moment, then he continued. Every difficult season taught me something I couldn't have learned any other way. Poverty taught me gratitude. Rejection taught me resilience. Failure taught me wisdom. Loss taught me perspective. And hope taught me to keep walking even when I couldn't see the destination. For a few seconds, the room was completely silent, not because people had nothing to say, but because everyone was reflecting on their own journey. He looked around the room and smiled. If you're struggling today, if life isn't going according to plan, if you've failed more times than you can count, I want you to remember something. The seed spends a long time growing beneath the soil before anyone sees a single leaf. From the outside, it looks like nothing is happening, but underneath, everything is changing. Your life may feel like that today. People may think you've fallen behind. They may laugh at your dreams. They may tell you you're too old. They may remind you of your failures. But never allow someone else's timeline to become your limit. He thought about his mother, about the promise he never fulfilled in the way he had imagined, about the letter she left behind. Then he smiled again. I once believed my purpose was to make my mother proud. But I eventually realized she was already proud of the man I was becoming. That realization changed everything. Success is not measured only by what you earn. It's measured by who you become while pursuing your dreams. Money can buy comfort, but it cannot buy character. Fame can bring attention, but it cannot replace integrity. Wealth can change your address, but only discipline can change your life. He finished with one final message. If you're waiting for the perfect moment, it doesn't exist. If you're waiting until you're fearless, you'll wait forever. If you're waiting for everyone to believe in you, you may never begin. Sometimes, you have to believe in yourself before anyone else does. Sometimes, you have to keep walking while everyone else is turning back. Sometimes, you have to plant seeds knowing you may not see the harvest immediately. Because the future belongs to those who continue moving forward, even when the road is uncertain. As he stepped away from the stage, the audience rose to their feet, not because he had become a billionaire, but because they recognized something much more valuable, a person who had transformed pain into purpose, failure into wisdom, loss into strength, and dreams into reality. As he walked outside, he looked up at the sky, the same way he had done countless times as a young man sitting outside his small apartment. This time, however, he wasn't asking life for a chance. He was thanking life for the journey, because he finally understood that every setback, every rejection, every tear, and every lonely night had been preparing him for the life he was now living. And perhaps the greatest lesson of all is this: never measure your future by your current circumstances. Measure it by your willingness to keep going. Dream boldly, work relentlessly, learn continuously, stand back up after every fall, believe in yourself when no one else does, because the life you dream about isn't built in a single day. It's built one decision, one sacrifice, one lesson, and one act of perseverance at a time. Never let temporary hardship convince you to abandon a permanent dream. Your breakthrough may be closer than you think. Keep believing, keep growing, keep moving forward, and never, ever give up. Grow beyond limits. Become your greatest asset. Subscribe to Growth Mindset Path and click on the notification button for more content like this.